Ryan Moore here. Got my bone stock CRF50, and today we're going to start turning it into a little stunt bike. And as you can see, first thing that needs to go are these tiny handlebars. I can't even turn the bike with my foot on the peg. So we're going to slap a big bar kit on it from 50 Stunt, made right here. Give you some install instructions, show you how it's done. Alright, to install the big bar kit you're going to need some tools. I have an 1.25" socket to get the head stem nut off of the triple clamp, or you can use a crescent wrench, one of the two. Socket's better. A small pair of dikes. I have a torque wrench with a 6mm Allen socket, some scissors, a 14mm wrench, two 12mm wrench, and a 10mm wrench, a flat and Phillips screwdriver. I have an 8mm T-handle, but you can use an 8mm socket, 4 and 5mm T-handle Allens, a 10 and 12mm socket, along with the ratchet and extension. Once you get your parts, take a little mental note, a little inventory of what you got. Should come with, of course, the handlebars, a front brake cable, new kill switch, extended throttle cable, a new throttle, pair of grips, grip glue, front brake lever, the billet triple clamp. And on this particular bike today, we're going to be installing the new ASV unbreakable lever on this big bar kit. Alright, the first thing we're going to do to make this real easy is just take the body and the fuel tank off. That will expose the ignition and the carburetor to make it easier to change the kill switch and the throttle cable. We'll start with these two 10mm underneath the seat. Two Phillips screws holding the shrouds to the gas tank. And then there's also clips that hold the shroud to the gas tank. These plastic clips right here, they just pop out. I usually use the same screwdriver and just poke it up. It pops the centerpiece out, which allows the whole thing to come loose. So there it is. Body slides back. Now the body is completely out of the way, gives us access to everything. Take the fuel tank off. The carburetor's right under that. Same with the kill switch ignition, the wiring. So it's only 2 bolts. Just make sure your gas is turned off so you're not spilling fuel everywhere. And I'm just going to go ahead and get this out of the way. Just got to remove the vent hose. Also remove the rubber fuel line from the petcock. Zip tie on it. Or I can take it off the carburetor, either one. And there goes the fuel tank. Here's your wiring for the kill switch. Goes up to the handlebar through here, up to the on-off switch on the controls. And we're going to also have to access the throttle cable, which is the top of the carburetor right here. We'll get to that in a little bit. Alright, I'm just going to pop the number plate out of the way, roll it forward, just to get it out of the way. We also need a longer brake cable, so I'm going to remove the stock front brake cable right now while I'm here. It's just a little quick adjust knob. Takes the brake cable off. Keep the spring, pin, and the knob separate, because you don't want to lose those. Crack the cable loose with a 12mm wrench. It's got a nut on the mounting bracket on the bottom side and then also on the top. So you just get those out of the way. And then you can just pop the front brake cable out of the mount. Weave it out of the fork guard, through the forks, and that's ready to come off of the bike. I'm just going to tie it up here because this is all going to come off in one assembly. Next, I'm going to remove the stock throttle cable. This is your carburetor, that's the throttle cable cap. So I just have to unscrew the cap. Pull out the carburetor slide, and you're going to have to reuse the slide. So to remove the slide, you have to pull the spring back, and the cable should push out of the slide like that. and then your spring comes loose. Slide in the spring. Now your cable is removed. Now we have some wiring for the ignition as well. I'm going to undo the clamp here that holds it all onto the main frame. Trace my wiring back from the throttle down into the main wiring loom, and there's a green and a black with a white, and you can just remove those. Should just pop out. Now your wiring is undone. I got all the wiring and controls, cables, everything removed from the big bar kit. So basically we're left with taking the top triple off. There's two ways on the stock bike. You got the big nut here and two 14mm nuts here. But in order to get to the big nut with a socket, you have to get underneath of the handlebars with a 12mm and remove these. Then you can take the handlebars off. But I'm going to give it a go with a crescent wrench and see if I can crack this with a crescent wrench, because most of you probably don't have this size socket, 32mm or something like that. Alright, so we got her cracked loose with the crescent wrench on the steering stem top nut here. So that's off. Now we just need to crack these 14mm here. There we go. There we are. You don't have to get me shooting it, cutting it out of the package. Come on. They can figure that one out. Alright, it's time to bolt up some serious hotness now. We got the reinforced triple clamp. The first part is the base. Get the base set in place. Man, you're ready to pop back in the 14mm bolts. Now it's time to install the triple clamp risers that go to the handlebars. We're going to throw a little medium Loctite on all the bolts. I like to do that on any bike I build. So we don't have any more medium Loctite because I used it all up. Alright. I always use medium Loctites on every fastener. Sometimes red, but in this case we'll go with some medium thread locker on all the triple clamp bolts. I'm just going to hand thread these in place. The bolt comes through the bottom. I'm going to use a 6mm socket Allen type wrench. Highly recommend, if you're going to have a 50, go to Sears and get yourself a nice set of socket Allens. Now I'm going to torque them down to 30 foot-pounds just to make sure it's a nice even torque and nothing comes loose later on while I'm riding. When I have a torque wrench, make sure you go to a Honda dealer, motorcycle shop, buddy's house, or whoever you can find that has a torque wrench. And it's critical to get these top and triple clamps to 30 foot-pounds. I usually get the handlebars just kind of snugged up a little bit with them out of the way, folded forward. Just makes it easier to get the wrench in, just until they're, you know, kind of snug. Make sure also when you're tightening this that you have an even gap between here and here. You can see mine's a little bit uneven. I'm going to back these off a little and then come in with these to keep it nice and even. There we go. Nice even gap front and the back. I'm going to tighten these down nice and evenly in a crisscross pattern until I get to my 30 foot-pounds on the top triple also. Now I'm going to pop the front number plate on. And we just trim the top with some scissors. and bolt it into the top of the triple. I'm just going to disassemble the throttle. It comes fully assembled, so there's some 4mm Allens. Make sure you use metric. Don't want to use some standard and start stripping anything. Everything is metric. You got the top half, throttle tube, bottom half, and the cable guide, plastic cable guide. Make a note of the orientation when it comes out. Pretty much like that. First I'm going to put the cable through the housing and thread it in, probably about halfway to start with. It's all adjustable, but I'm gonna thread it in about halfway and see what it does. Then you got to install the cable guide. The cable rides right through the groove, so I'm just gonna push it back in there. Then the throttle tube itself. I'm gonna put that in through the eye, then wrap the tube like so. Then you're ready to close it up with the bottom. And just leave these a little snug because you still have to put them on the handlebars. So I'm just going to tighten this so it doesn't fall apart. There'll still be a little gap. Check my throttle action. Oh yeah, cables coming through. Seems pretty short. I'm going to go ahead and thread this all the way in. I could tell it's going to make it really hard to put this slide on with the cable halfway. So we got the cable through. We got the cap that comes in the red bag with the throttle cable. Just going to go ahead and pop that on. Click. So there's our carb cap. Now we're ready to install the slide. So we're just going to put the spring in. Try to push it down as far as possible. And I'm going to hook it with my other finger. Then take the slide and pop that cable back into the slide. Let the spring release. Now you can check the action of the throttle once again. Nice and smooth. No binding. So we're ready to install this onto the bike. Be careful for this rubber O-ring. It kind of pops around. Keep your eyes on it. It's supposed to be seated in the cap. Now I'm just going to slide the whole assembly onto the handlebars and snug it up. You don't want it rubbing on the end of the bars. Just slightly touching. And I'm just going to snug it up for now because I might have to reposition it once I get the front brake lever in the spot. So there we go. Nice smooth action. Now I'm going to route this cable into position. We got our throttle mounted. Everything's nice and smooth. I'm just going to put it through the factory hoop here. Down the side of the bike. Through the next factory hoop, and we're ready to pop it in. And before I pop it in, I also need to put the rubber booty from the cable down onto the top cap to get a nice airtight seal so no dirt passes through. I just push it on and it pops right on. My O-ring back in place since I dropped it. Now for the fun part, getting it back in the carburetor. This slide can go in two different positions. You can put it in this way or with the long slot facing towards you. You want the long slot facing away from you. The short slot facing towards you, and then it should slide all the way in to the carburetor if you have the slot lined up. See how it goes all the way in there, and then you're ready to tighten the cap down. Make sure your O-ring's seated. There you go. We have a little bit more throttle play than I'd like to see. So now I can just back this out, the cable adjuster, take out some of the play, There we go. And then lock it in. So there we go. Which should be okay, but I'm just gonna make sure and just give it just a slight nudge with the pliers so I know it's fully seated. Now we're gonna install the unbreakable ASV up front. Same procedure with both levers. This just happens to be a bike we're putting this on right now. I just loosened up the perch. I'm gonna pop it in position here, leave it a little loose so I can position it. Leave it a little snug so I can move it around. I like a nice 2-finger grip, so that feels pretty good right there. I'm gonna go ahead and snug it up. Time for the cable. It's pretty easy, just pop it in the slot here. You have to line up the adjuster so both the slots are completely in line to get the cable through. Can you get a close-up of the alignment? There it is. There's your top cable. I'm going to route it back through and down to the lower fork leg. Push the front brake pin back in, install the spring, stock brake knob. So the tension feels good. I'm going to go ahead and lock it down. Alright, we got our front brakes dialed in. Feeling good, nice 2-finger grip on it. Throttle's feeling good. Time to put the kill switch on. The kill switch is a universal switch that has a knob to keep it from rotating. On my application, I don't have a hole in the handlebars for it, so I'm just going to go ahead and trim that off. Just pop it with some pliers and it's gone. Next, just going to slide it onto the handlebars and leave it loose for now because I still have to apply the grip. So I'm just going to get it somewhere where I think I want to have it and just snug it up. Run it down the handlebars, put it through the stock loom, and I have my factory wiring loom under the tank. Connect it back up with that as well, wrapped in with the throttle cable. There's also a connector that adapts it to a male connector, and the original black one goes to the black wire inside of here, which is the rubber plug that's in, and then the green one. And there it is. Alright, time to install the grips. We're going to just slap a little grip glue in here. I'm just going to dribble a little bead inside, let it kind of drain down. Smack it around inside of there some. There's 2 different size grips. This is for the side with no throttle. The bigger one is for the side with the throttle. Pull it on. And I'm going to throw a zip tie on the kill switch, just to keep the wiring nice and clean. And finally, tighten the kill switch down into position. So once I get the controls on, I usually check to make sure that it doesn't hit the ground. I put it to lock, put it on the ground. This one's pretty close, but you can tell the bar head's hitting before the end of the lever, so I'm not going to have any problem breaking levers. Alright, we got the body all put back on. Just reverse the order, bolt everything up. Put the big bar on. So now I'm ready to go. Got knee room, I can turn the handlebars now. Time to go do some stunts.